You're always ready.
Okay.
Okay, well, let's see. Let's go ahead and get started. We have, I guess we first of all ought to indicate who's here. And I think you've all, and well, even if you hadn't seen the agenda, now you get to see the agenda. So here we are. Let's just go in turn and announce who we are. So Rich West is here. Anybody else?
Kim Penman is here.
Jill Lowe, principal. I'm here.
Alex Garrett, assistant principal.
Ryan Marchant, business.
Lynn Hobbs here.
Okay, wonderful. Now, since Alex has commanded the screen, I can't see everybody anymore. But oh, there we go. Look at that. Okay, now Teresa. No, Teresa. She was going to be here, I know. And has anybody heard from Frank? Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for participating.
I haven't heard from him.
Okay. I know that for some of us, this is a greater sacrifice than others, right, Lynn? It's just...
I'm playing good, so I'm listening well, and I'll visit well. So,
okay. Now we understand that you're playing golf at the same time, so
yes,
we just want to be careful. Everybody understands the rules about appropriate language during the board meeting, right?
yes. Well, you don't need to worry about me. I'm just happy because, you know, how could I not be happy beating my grandson? But he just hit a great shot, so that's all right.
I think it's wonderful. Well done. Okay, first item on the agenda is the financial report. So Ryan, let's pass to you.
Yeah.
This one and the next item are reports only. The third item and the fourth and the fifth will require votes. So I'm just getting everybody prepared. Those of you who'd like to, who may be anticipating placing a motion before the board. So the first two are.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, the first one is just for information purposes only. We're just actually, I sent this out a little bit early so that people could maybe had a chance to review it. Let me ask, are there any questions, first of all, that anybody has in their review or that we can get to right off? If not, I'll kind of dig into this.
Okay.
I apologize, I can see one typo already, but the total actual revenues were not 4 million. That would be almost double what we actually done. That first 4 should be a 2. And the second, so really the revenues are 2,466,186, and then the budget amount is 2,432,289. I apologize for that. For an excess of 33,288, included in total revenue, restricted sped funds again of 194,000, and we've talked about that, having a separate budget for that. A lot of it's just kind of business as usual. We also have gotten CAPSA reimbursement of 63,000, which I think we've renewed that CAPSA grant, so that funds should be flowing through as well again. We've received about $1 million in K through 12 funding and about 600,000, almost 589 in charter school local replacement. These are two large funding items. CTE funding 98,000. We also get comp counseling money, school land trust, and then of course the national school lunch. These are just some of the highlights. Of course, we have bigger categories. We have other categories of funding that we receive, and we try to break those down in the financial statements, and those are attached in the profit and loss verse of our actual budget. But those are just some of the highlights. Included in total expenses were our total expenses for the the July 20 through May 21st were 2,246,000. versus a budget of 2,183,000. So consequently, our net income is 219,000 versus a budget of 249,000. So a variance of about negative almost $30,000. Salary so far, we've spent about $745,000 of our budget of 738,000. So we're just overage a little bit there, but some of that was due to our COVID stipend that we received that we didn't have anticipation for. Year to date, employee benefits are 345,000 versus 314,000. Again, most of our other wages and benefits as you go through the profit and loss are in line with our approved budget. And then we also have salaries counselors, which includes our CAPSA counselor. We have an extra counselor, and then our salaries for our principals and our secretary are a little bit less than our budget, but that's just maybe a timing issue there more than anything. Utilities, 36,000 versus a budget of 35,000. Property and equipment, we talked about this in the past, but just as a reminder, we put a new gym floor in this last year, which is 18,000, and picked up some Chromebooks and some Apple computers. We've paid off about $52,000 of building principal, and our current mortgage balance is listed there at about $2 million. And we've paid off just a little over $1 million of facility principal. Cash at the end of May was $458,000. Cash at the end of April was $460,000. And then of course our FFCHS the payable that we talked about, and then the payroll liabilities of $48,000, which we just kind of rotate on a monthly basis. Okay, we can go to the next sheet, which is cash balances. This kind of gives us a look of where we've been the last 6 months, and you can kind of get an idea of how our cash position should be going up. We'll talk about that in our cash flow analysis, which will come up next. But there are some reimbursements that will be included in there as well. So cash has for the most part been pretty level, as you can see there. Our October 1st count, but going back to 2019, you can kind of just see the growth in the school. The last day of school this year, we had 314 kids, which is really good. And again, I think our last board meeting we had was back in April, and we kind of talked about some successes there. So I won't go into a lot of detail there unless Jill or Alex want to talk about that. But we are seeing a good increase in student headcount. Okay, you can scroll through there unless anybody has any questions. This is just kind of the backup for all of what we talked about. So I kind of get the highlights for you guys, but this is our balance sheet. You can see our cash position, some of our liabilities is kind of listed there. And then the next 4 pages or 5 pages there, this is our profit and loss to budget. And you can, again, it has more detail there, and I encourage you to go through that. But I just, again, try to hit the highlights with the bigger items that we've talked about. So I think the next one we'll go to is, I think it says 1205 SPED at the top. Yeah, right there. Again, I won't go a lot of detail. I just want you guys to know that we account by things. If we receive funding from the legislature and it's supposed to be accounted for in a certain area, we try to do that. We do that, obviously. And this is like a special ed. So you can see special ed, we do have a little bit of funding there, and we might have a little bit of a carryover, but I doubt it, just simply because some of our funds from our IDEA, which is our federal revenue source for special ed, we always far exceed that. And that's where we put our main SPED director salary is in that. So we'll have quite a bit of her salary to put into that 77,000 net income. That'll bring that down significantly. Okay. At risk, we use this to pay for, I believe it's our student support center. So you can see we've spent all of those dollars. Trust lands, I think we've spent all those dollars as well. We use that for and again, we talked about this in our last board meeting, but we were paying a teacher to put classes she teaching. Again, Jill, remind me, what classes our trust lands girl teach? Chandler.
No, it goes towards, Shandy Chambers, and she teaches the work skills classes and some FFCH, not fast forward, some FCHD classes.
Okay. All right, moving on. COVID-19 stipends, we received 63,000. We paid this out the middle of March. And then you can see there at the bottom, we had to write a check back to the state of Utah with our leftover funds of about $13,000. So they overfunded us by a little bit, but we cut that check back to them. IDEA sped, this is what I was talking about. Not a lot of revenue there, but you can see a lot of expense. So that's almost $57,000 we'll use to go into that $77,000 positive on sped. So we'll pretty much eliminate that entire positive sped. Title I, we use this to pay for our math teacher who is actually leaving. We're sad to see her go. So we'll probably recalibrate these funds for a different use next year, or potentially just for whoever takes her position. But you can see we've spent all of those funds as well. This is our monthly allotment memo. This is for June. So if you ever just kind of want to see our funding sources and how much we receive on a month from the state of Utah, this is that, and that's got some detail on it. So about $200,000 a month. Okay, any questions on the financial report? You guys are seasoned veterans, and so I kind of run through these little bit. And I know that you guys know all these. You guys can ask any questions if you need.
No, looks great.
Okay. All right.
Brian?
Yeah.
I always like to ask the question, do you see any trends or issues that the board ought to be aware of and paying attention to?
Yeah, that's always a good question. I think that our trend is in moving in a pretty positive position. And you'll see this with our cash flow coming up in just a minute. I really feel like we're moving in a fairly positive position from a financial point. And, you know, the financial position of a school is basically, it's almost the canary in the coal mine of how the overall school is functioning. So it's a good indicator of the health of the school. And again, not in all cases, but so it's really a tribute to, you know, what Jill and Alex and, you know, her entire staff is doing up there. And so I think that they're doing well. I do feel, as far as, you know, the state of Utah, and I think we came out of this COVID-19 really well as far as the operation of the state. And we were able to have some significant increases. And, you know, a lot of our costs are fixed costs, except for wage. But, you know, one of our big ones is our facility. And so, you know, we purchased our facility so long ago, and we've refinanced a couple of times, and interest rates, of course, have been good. And who knows what that's going to be like in the future. But at one time, our mortgage payment and our rent payment was a lot for us to manage because, you know, the funding levels were low. But you throw 20 years of WPU increases and then just other increases naturally that come with funding. And then it seems like it's almost like, you know, when you lived in your house for 15 or 20 years and you say, remember when our house payment was so much and we didn't know how we were going to make it? But, you know, 20 years later, it's not quite that steep, you know, as it might have seemed at one time. So we're no different, you know, as far as that goes. So I think we're in a pretty good position overall. I wouldn't say that there's, from my point, I wouldn't say that there's anything that gives me heartburn at this moment. You know, if our cash position maybe was more facing a downward trend, except we're going to start seeing it go up. So I think we're in a pretty good position.
All right. Well, that's good news, and it makes us all feel a little bit more comfortable about the position we're in. So thank you very much. Let's move to the updated cash flow report.
Oh, good. Alex is prepared. He's already flipped it for us. So if you want to look there at June of 21 in the bottom right-hand corner, Alex, you can see the June of 21. Oh, excuse me. Go up to one more. Yeah, right there. Our current cash position is 382,274, but then of course that doesn't include our allotment for June, which would be 200,000. We have a $90,000 of essentially 90,000 more of expense. So at the end of the month, 492,000. Then you can go, actually, the way this works is go down to, there you go, July of 21. So you can just kind of see there's a little bit of pro forma in here, but essentially the 492 carries the state allotment. This is when our state allotment changes. I'm anticipating in about 206, but they're kind of funding us at a lower level until they see a real head count, which will come in November. We'll get our trust lands funds, and then we'll get some reimbursements of about $80,000, I think, in July. So then you can see the expenses that we have, 145. So our cash position at the end of July should go up to about, I think that's 620. Yeah, 622. And then again, it just flows through to August. It's similar. I mean, it's pretty, so you can see our 623, not a lot of growth there between August, September, October. Our balance is pretty level. But you can see in November, it does change when we come in, when we have a higher head count. Now, assuming that we have about 300 kids. And I think that we're still on, let me know if I'm misspeaking here, Alex or Jill. But I think that's the plan. Okay. So assuming that our state allotment should go up to about, 220,000, and then there'll be a catch-up allotment that they'll need to fund us for about a tune of 145. And again, these are estimates at this point and can change. And if it does change materially, we'll come back. So you can see then again, at our ending cash position is 765, and then December, 21, and then it goes back actually up to that first page, Alex, if you want to move up to there. And you can see as of, I think, May of 22, which would be a full 12-month cycle there, we should maybe move our cash up to 845. So you can see the 2 months there, the June 21 where we are, the 492 versus the May of 22 of 845. So I think that we'll have some real positive trends. Again, if these changes materially, we'll come back and we'll explain it to you, but I think that's a fairly decent guess at this point. Any questions on any of that?
Anybody have any questions, concerns? I think this is another confirmation of what you've said before, and the numbers, they look good. They give us a degree of confidence that we're going to be in business in a year's time.
I hope so.
That's good to know. All right, so we've taken care of the first two reports. The next item is a final budget approval, and this will require a vote. So let's go ahead and switch over to the FY21 final budget approval.
Okay. So this essentially, what you're looking at here is our profit and loss that we just reviewed from July 20 of May of 21. So again, if you've looked at that, and this is the detail, and we won't talk a lot about it, but Alex, if you could just scroll down to the last page of this, I can show you kind of where we're headed here. We always come back to the board at the end of the year and approve an additional budget, and it's always probably more than what we need, but you don't get punished by the state in an audit report by having more. You only get if you're less, too short. So I always pad these. With that, I just know these numbers are padded at the bottom here, just simply because they don't care if we're over $1 or 10,000 or 20 or whatever. So essentially, I'm asking for a total expense of FY21 of $2.9 million. You can see that's above our budget of I think our final budget from last year is 2.3, but we put a June allotment in there of 200,000, June expenses, which this doesn't include 200. Our July and August payroll accrual of $250,000, which we always put in, but that's probably more than what we need, and then depreciation of 250, which is actually quite a bit more than what we need. So the total expense that I'm asking the board to approve, and again, some of those are non-cash expenses, the depreciation is, and the July and August payroll, the 250, we need to accrue those into this year, but we don't actually pay for them until July and August. So that is, those are funds that'll be paid then, but we need to accrue them back to the period that they were earned, which is this school year, which ends June 30th. So that's why we put that expense in there. So the total expense for this year is $2,946,305. And that's fairly similar to what we approved last year as well for when we came back and approved for a final budget for last year. But again, I just want the board to be clear on kind of how we built that number.
All right. If someone would like to introduce a motion here in a second, then we can have a few more questions about this. Is there a motion? Excuse me, go ahead.
This is Kim. I'll motion to approve.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kim. Is there a second? Lynn, in between golf shots?
Yeah, Lynn's probably standing over a pot.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and second it then. And then, so let's see if there are any questions about this proposed budget. Well, it's not really it's approving the final budget.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any questions?
No,
Did you make your putt?
no, I'm listening. I pushed the wrong button and you didn't hear me say I made the motion. So anyway, I guess you're hearing me now. So
We're hearing you now.
good. No, I have no questions.
Okay. Hearing no additional questions then, those in favor of approving the FY21 budget, please say aye. Aye. I don't have a visual on individuals, so
Oh,
if
Lynn said aye.
okay. Kim?
Yeah, I said aye.
Wonderful. Okay. So I don't believe that leaves any to be opposed. So we're approved.
Thank you.
So-
Thank you, board.
Well done. Let's move to the original budget approval then for FY22.
Okay. Again, those of you that have been on the board for a while kind of know this format and see it. I put as much detail or try to put as much detail in here as possible. Again, these numbers are hopefully confidential. Of course, anybody that wanted to attend our board meeting publicly could. So, I mean, they could come and see if they wanted. This is an open meeting and has been posted on the open public forum. But again, we try to give as much detail. So we do break out the wages by person, and you can see what people are making per, just so we want the board to have full disclosure on, you know, what we're doing. You can see a big chunk of our revenues are about $2.6 million, which kind of builds into the expense side of things. But you can, we want people to know kind of where those dollars are going. Our biggest two expenses, really our biggest expense by far is our cost of labor. And you can see that that's that full portion right there, that whole section right there that Alex is looking at. Our total wage with load plus load is $1,889,000. So we have a $2.6 million budget, and of that 1.8 million, almost 1.9 of it is labor and labor related costs. So, and that's very common for most schools, that and their facilities. Lucky for us, you know, like I said, going back to the facility discussion, you kind of beat that number down as much as you can over the years, and then it just becomes less and less of your overall burden because it's fixed. These are obviously variable costs, and with increases in valleys, I can say we've given out some substantial raises this last year, just because wages for teachers in the valleys is going up, which is good. We like to see that as well, because we like to have people come into the profession because it makes our lives easier. It's better, we produce a better product, but with that, wages do go up and people want to be paid more. And so we compare ourselves very, you know, most of our teachers are aware of where, you know, Logan pays and where Cash pays. And so in our discussions that Jill and I have with employees when they come in, we're aware of those two, and we'll just have very frank and open discussions with our employees and say, look, this is kind of where we are. We try to meet those numbers, and in most cases we're able to do that because clearly we do, because we do have a pretty high retention rate with a lot of our students. Students also, but with our employees here. So I think for the most part they're happy, and we try to make them that way. But kind of a side note to a longer budget discussion, but just suffice it to say that a good chunk of our dollars are spent simply here. Now, going to page 2, these are just the smaller items, I guess, that will just the operational things that we need to do. And we try to go through that, and some of these change from year to year, but a lot of it does stay pretty consistent just because our business model doesn't change, right? A lot of our expenses are the same from year to year. And so you can kind of see those, and we've listed those out. You can see our net income before we pay for our facility is $266,000. And then we add our mortgage payments in, which is 13,000 a month. So 159. So if you take 159,000 and divide that by our total weight, $2.6 million. See, our facility cost is only 7% of our total revenues, which the state says you can spend up to 20%. And at one point that number was probably a lot higher, but like I said, it's become less of a burden for us. And so 7% is actually really good to have your facility be only 7% of your overall revenue. So having said that, though, I think our net income at this point after our debt service is about $107,000. So total expenses for this year is $2,518,484. So that's kind of the number that you're looking to approve, but you're looking at the overall budget. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Is there anything, Ryan, in the proposed budget that is a substantial departure from previous budgets? Anything that we ought to be aware of? It seems like the overall amount is pretty consistent with where we've been.
Yeah, and I think you're seeing a couple of things. Wages are going up, which they're just going to do in kind of this inflationary period, I think, that we're going through. We're not trying to build anything. I mean, there are some things that we're trying to repair, roofs and stuff like that, and that's going to catch us in some inflation stuff. I mean, anybody that's tried to build anything lately knows exactly what I'm talking about. If contractors are expensive, they're hard to find, and materials are extremely expensive. So, that's good for guys that are already built and established, but, for people that want to maybe do some additional remodel and stuff, but we're not in that. The facility's in great shape. Wouldn't you say, Alex and Jill? I think our facility is, it's like 20 years old and it still feels like it's new to me when I go up there. And so that just goes, there are some things like the roof, we're working on the roof, and there are some things that just need to be replaced. But I think overall, structurally, the facility's in good shape, right, guys? Okay. Jill's giving us a thumbs up, so she must agree.
I think people have really taken care of the building, and that's wonderful. That's a compliment to both students and faculty.
Yeah. And it makes a huge difference in how students feel about the school. And there's Rich, you could probably tell us endless stuff about that, and the way the facility is and the kids coming to it and but it makes a huge difference. But for this purpose, it is in good condition, and it's been nice to have. So the other thing that I think that maybe to your point, Rich, is the cost of labor is going up. We have been fortunate. We do participate in the state retirement fund, and we haven't had an increase in our we haven't had an increase in our rates in like 5 years. And that's because the stock market has done so well. That's not always going to be the case. And that's kind of one of those big unknowns. At some point the market will go down, hopefully not a lot, but I think the state has essentially said that if we don't make 7, or I think it's about 7% a year on their return, then we do have increases. Now they've been easily been able to meet that benchmark the last several years, but at some point that will go up. So that will cost us significantly, or could potentially. I do feel pretty good about the revenue from the state. I do think that we never really anticipated having 315 kids in the school, and we're doing that because of the model that we have right now. And so if there was a change where we needed to change that model and come back down to where we could actually, like, if we couldn't split the day, which we're doing right now, that's why we can accommodate so many students. And we talked about this in our last board meeting. But I think that if we had to come back to like the 260 mark or something like that, then we would have to look at this budget again, because I don't simply think that we can afford all the labor. But as far as things go now, I think that it's manageable, and it provides us with an additional funding source. Anything you want to say on that, Jill or Alex? Okay.
Okay, well, let's open this up. Let's see if there is someone who would like to introduce a motion to approve this fiscal year 22 budget.
I'll motion to approve. Kim.
Thank you, Kim. Is there a second?
I will second it.
Thank you, Lynn. So we have a motion and a second to approve the fiscal year 22 budget. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Hearing none, this motion passes.
Thank you.
Let's move then to the F21 fraud risk assessment.
Yeah. This might look familiar to some of you because we did it not long ago, but that was for the prior fiscal year. This is a new report that the state auditor requires that we actually fill out and upload to their website every year so that we can continue with our funding. And it gives you a total points earned, and you can see ours is 315 out of 395. So that puts us in about the moderate risk. I mean, essentially we're 1 point away from the low. We can definitely get there. So I would actually say we're probably in the low risk, to be honest. But according to this, we're in the moderate. We scored pretty well on most of this. A couple things that I think that, well, there's one thing that we could do simply that that would give us 20 more points, and that's our employees. It's number 4 there, are required to annually, employees and elected officials required to annually commit in writing to abide by a statement of ethical behavior. We could put that together fairly quick and have people sign that, so I think that's something that we could put together. The board training, I kind of need to find out, and maybe I need to dig in more into this, Rich, but I think we did a lot of training, it was a couple years ago, but I don't know if maybe we need to revisit the training thing and we could pick up another 20 points there, but I think we have done some over the years. I just don't know if we're in compliance with number 5 fully. So
Yeah,
Ryan,
yeah.
I know we could take a training when I was on the board with Logan, and you could take it online, and that would take care of that every year. So, yeah. Or you could take a class at the state school board, but it was easy just to get online and take that. So that might be something to look into.
They actually give a website here. Maybe I'll just send that out, or maybe we can get Jill or Alex to send that out, but it's training.auditor.utah.gov. And I think that that's something that we could send out to the board members and just have them go through.
Yeah, I think that'd be good.
I think that's a good idea. So I have a couple of other questions about this, because these seem like easy points to pick up. That the written commitment to abide by ethical behavior, that seems like a fairly easy thing for us to do.
Yeah.
The training is certainly accessible, and that would help. Item number 3, it seems to me all we need is a CIA operative, and it looks like we'd be okay there. I'm not sure what the CIA thinks, but
somebody from the FBI.
Yeah, I think I can pitch some friends in the CIA to tell us that we're okay. But so some easy points to pick up, but the question I really have is, so how do these numbers actually change the world for fast forward. Say we're at 315 versus, we could easily be to 340, 350.
Yeah.
How does our world change if our numbers go up?
Well, I think for the purpose of this, they just want to make sure that we're reviewing something and we've got a plan to make it better. We try, because we're now, that's the point of this report, and how that there's essentially nothing, that there's no stick that's tied to this report. In other words, there's nothing that the state, they're just basically saying, you kind of know where you are and you know some areas you can make better. And these are pretty simple. Honestly, these are pretty simple areas that we could change. For us, we're small. And so really the first big one, the 200 points, the separation of duties to mitigate controls, we've tried to do that as best as we can. And at one point we weren't real good at that, because I was doing probably too much of that. I was, and I was doing payroll, signing checks, and reconciling the bank account, and it wasn't a very good segregation of duty. We definitely could have done better, but it's because we were a small organization, and that's just kind of the way it worked for a lot of years. But we changed that about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe not quite that long, 3 or 4, where we do more separation. I don't sign any checks, and I haven't for years. I do reconcile the bank account, which is part of that. Jill is a signer on the account, and also Katrina Walker, who is the principal here, if she's in case. I think there's 1 check or 2 checks a year that I have her sign, just because no one's around and I need to have it signed, but Katrina will sign it, and I always explain that to her if I need to cut something here. We do have an assistant here at Fast Forward or at East Hollywood that helps with my payroll, and she helps. So Fast Forward, Kirsten at Fast Forward, she prepares payroll. We process it down here. My assistant does, Amanda. And then she also cuts the bills up there as well. And then she gives the checks to sign to Jill, the lady there raising her hand. And then same thing with the credit card. We reconcile it every month, and we make sure that forms are filled out that need to be done. Anytime anybody takes a credit card, that's probably the biggest form of fraud that people come into, is just the abuse of a credit card. But we have a pretty tight control on that as well. So to answer your question, Rich, that's kind of maybe a little more of an answer than what you were looking for, but we try to really get the separation of duties, and then some of these other things we just kind of need to work on adding on and getting better at.
Well, I think we can very easily get into the low category, and
yes,
we could with a little bit of effort, we could push to the very low. And that would make us all feel very comfortable, but I'm not sure it substantially changes the quality of life for anyone.
I would agree with you 100%.
Well, what I can do is I can send out that online training to everyone. And, all of our teachers on the number 4, all of our teachers take a training annually about ethical teacher ethics. And so they have that. It would just basically be the board that would need to do it. So we could get that and send that out to the board as well. Karen usually takes care of that kind of stuff. So, or the state does, I'm sorry, but we could get that out to everybody. That wouldn't be very hard to do it all and get us up there. So,
well, a commitment in writing for ethical behavior, that's the easiest. And then the online training, we ought to be able to do that. If one of you could check and find out how often that training needs to be done, then we can keep a database showing when every person did the training.
Alex,
Then
can you maybe look into that?
Yeah, it looks like it's once every 4 years.
Yeah.
Based on appointment or term. So.
Okay. Well, let's make a commitment, all of us, that we're going to do that. And we'll get through it. And then that buys us 4 years. And it'll give us an extra 40 points. And we're going to be at the edge
Very,
of the
very well.
category.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right. So we need a vote to approve the fiscal year 21 fraud risk assessment.
I'll motion to approve.
Thank you very much, Kim. A second? I know Lynn is reaching for the
I
button.
will second it.
There you go. Excellent. Any further questions on this motion? Hearing none, place it in question then. Those in favor of the approving the fiscal year 20 fraud risk assessment, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And I think that covers us all, so there aren't any people left to say no. Motion passes. Well done. Just include a couple of those notes then that Alex will get us some information, and we'll have that written commitment then each year that we'll do, and that'll boost our numbers a little bit and improve our risk assessment profile. Let's go to the next item then. Jill, principal's report.
Okay, so thank you all for coming to graduation. It was fun. We had a kind of a fun ceremony this year, and it went really well. We had great families, great family attendance, and anyway, it was fun. So thank you for coming. As Ryan talked about earlier, one of our math teachers, our longtime math teachers, decided to stay home with her family and is kind of doing an accounting business on the side. So Alex and I and our team have kind of been interviewing math teachers, which are way too far and few in between, kind of like special ed teachers, really hard to find. So we're continuing our search. And just kind of wrapping up paperwork for the state. That's kind of our summertime, how it looks right now, and getting ready for next year. So Alex just I'm gonna have him talk for just a minute about he's just finished up. We offer a great summer program and some credit earning classes. Alex does a great outdoor program with students, and then we have a number of teachers that stay in the school and offer daily credit earning. So it's been very successful this summer. We've had a lot of kids participate. So Alex, do you want to take a minute and talk about your program?
Sure. So back in summer of 2019 was our first year we did the summer outdoor program. We had about 12 kids that participated in that. Then due to last year with COVID going through the summer, we revamped what the summer was going to be like, and we offered credit recovery for juniors who are becoming seniors that were credit deficient or needing to earn credit of 15 or more credits in their senior year. And that was also pretty successful. We had at least 8 students that completed 3 or more credits last summer. And Philip this year has been running the credit recovery portion of that. And I think we're on track to have at least 19 kids earn summer credit as they move into their senior year of at least 4 credits or more. And so for a lot of those kids, that ability to earn the credit in this summer allows them to have graduation. They still might have to pass every class for the rest of the school year, but they might not have to make up as much credit throughout, which is, we saw that this school year, those kids that did participate in the summer class last year in 2020 had a much more achievable senior year than students who waited till the last minute or we've had to do continual credit recovery with throughout the school year. And as you guys know, like that's the beauty of like our school is that we're able to make different plans and meet kids where they are at. And this summer program just affords itself to that as well. Then there's the summer program that I oversee, which is the summer outdoor. And they earn a social studies elective class half credit, an English class half credit, and then a PE half credit. This year we hiked, I think it was almost just shy of 40 miles over a span of 15 days. We read excerpts from these two books, Barefoot Heart. I don't know if anyone can see that. Barefoot Heart. It's stories about immigrants that are coming and like being raised, and then Ecology of a Cracker Childhood. Read excerpts. They tie into like how nature enriches lives and being out in the forest, you know, or out in the world, getting away from the concrete can help deal with mental stresses, family issues, help the kids really find themselves. This year we had a lower participant count. I only had 5 kids that came every day and I had 13 sign up, but only 5 came to the initial. But it was actually really fun having only 5 kids because it was like we all fit in the excursion. We were with each other like every day for at least 4 to 5 hours. And so like it was really good for like the bonding and just building relationships with those kids. Josiah, he's one of our aides that helps in the math. And in the student center, he joined me with the trip. So there was me and Josiah, then the 5 kids. And then for our final like big day excursion, we went up to the Tetons, hung out around Jenny Lake and hiked up to the Hidden Falls waterfall up there. And the kids loved it. We stopped and played on this like really big playground in Soda Springs and learned about like the history of Soda Springs and stopped at the Niter Ice Caves. The kids got to learn just kind of fun different things about the valley and where we live and earn some credit while we do it. So that's been our summer so far. That's been our June.
That sounds pretty exciting. Can board members register?
You're always welcome to come join us. I'll let you know next year. Come on out.
Good. Listen, I've got a couple of ideas for you to consider. Our local interfaith council, Cash Community Connections, launched an initiative this year, began in January. So we're now, 6 months into it, initiative called Connecting Neighbors. And you might be interested to go to the cashcommunityconnections.org website and look up what's going on. But we're posting interviews of interesting people in the community. And I think it might be interesting for fast forward some of the students to consider participating and suggesting some people who might be good interviews and reaching out to people in the community and conducting some interviews and submitting them to CCC to be included in their website. I think it's accomplishing an interesting objective of exposing the community to the diversity that we experience in the community and creating an opportunity for a sense of greater unity. So something for you to consider that might be an interesting project.
Yeah, Rich, they actually reached out to us this kind of late spring, right before school got out. So we're trying to get one lined up for them, an
Good.
interview. So.
Wonderful. I think that's great. Let's see, anything else, Jill, Alex, you'd like to include in your report?
I don't think so.
May I say that it is always an honor and frankly, a treat to be acknowledged as associated with such a fine operation as Fast Forward. You people do a marvelous job, and it helps tremendously in the community. And one of your recent graduates, one who I know personally, has told me on more than one occasion that she would not be a high school graduate were it not for the efforts of dedicated faculty and administration at Fast Forward. And now she is enjoying a humanitarian project in Ghana, in Africa.
Oh,
And
awesome.
so thank you very much. Let me say that as this pandemic comes to a slow end, and I'm not sure it is ever really going to end, as I read reports about the ascendancy of the new Delta variant, that we may continue to meet forever via Zoom. And certainly Zoom meetings have their place. Last week, I was able to participate in another board meeting while I was walking through Central Park in New York. And this week, Lynn Hobbs is golfing and still I think Zoom meetings have their place, and maybe we should have a few of these by Zoom. Occasionally, it's probably going to be good to get together in person.
Yeah, I agree.
But I love having this option, to be honest. When is our next meeting?
Ryan and I were discussing that last week. Probably the first part of September, the first Thursday in September is what we're going to shoot for.
Okay.
We have we have some policies that need updated that we've been working on. So we will have a whole bucket load of policy reading for you at our next meeting. So I will get those sent out well before our meeting, so everyone has time to look at them. But there's going to be quite a few of them. So.
Well, sounds like a good time for an in-person meeting.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then let's explore the possibility of either hybrid or a mixture of in-person and Zoom meetings. Has anybody had any contact with Frank?
No, but I will contact him and see why he's not participating.
Okay.
I'll be happy to.
Wonderful.
And I'll get back. Yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah.
With Logan School District is crucial.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, speaking of hybrids, I want you to know that I hit my hybrid really good today, and I tied my grandson. We each shot a 43. So anyway, so it was good.
Wow, that's a good score, man.
Way to go.
Good job.
Hey, yep.
Now you're starting to introduce the possibility of a Fast Forward golf tournament.
There you
Oh,
go. I like
hey.
that.
Sounds great.
I like that.
Me too.
Maybe we could combine it with a Sasquatch hunt.
Hey, I'm in. I'm in.
Dig for gold.
We
while
could-
we're out there.
Yeah.
I'm sure Jill will lead out on that one in a
Oh,
heartbeat.
yeah.
Amen.
Have you
Absolutely.
seen any yet this summer when you've been riding?
You know what, Lynn? I haven't. You know, they're not really easy to find. I have not seen one yet.
Yeah.
My brother is convinced that he's seen one. So
Well,
I'll tell you that story when we get a minute. So
all right.
While you're out riding in the wilderness, there isn't much difference to hunting for golf balls in the long grass. We might find one there as well. So,
Yeah, that's true.
all right. Hey,
Love y'all. Appreciate
yeah,
it.
we love you guys. Thank you.
Appreciate your years of service. Thank you.
Okay.
on
Bye.
this is goodbye then, until
Yeah.
September.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.